mid-70s, when I was busy in the studio scene in LA, I was also getting called to do some rhythm track arrangements. So they would send me the tunes, and I'd get together with the artists, we'd find out what key they wanted in, and I would do a chart for the rhythm section. Well, there's a reason I'm telling you this, to get to Steely Dan, trust me. One of those artists was Joan Baez, and they called me to do some rhythm charts for an album of hers called Diamonds and Rust. And that album went gold, and we had a hit single off of it. And however months and months later, I get a call for the first time from Steely Dan, wanting to know if I could come in and do an overdub on the album they were working on. So when I got there, they needed a rhythm guitar part, no lead parts, they just needed a rhythm part. Well, I did it a couple of times, and me loved it, so I was finished. And I walked out of the back door of the studio with Walter Becker, and we just sat down on a little stool out there and got to know each other a little bit. So as we were visiting, I said, Walter, you guys have made such great records and you have wonderful guitar players on them. How is it that you happen to call me now for this? And he said, I hate Joan Baez music. And I wanted to meet the guy that could make her sound that good. That was my intro to Steely Dan. So I played some rhythm part on some song for Katie Lyons. I don't even remember what song it was. And then the next year when it came time for them to record the Royal Scam, well, they called me and sent me their demo tapes, and we got together and I did all the charts for that. What I'm getting at is, we recorded the rhythm tracks as a unit like this, and then they did rough vocals and some other things. Then they called me months later to come in and do solo stuff. Well, I was familiar with the tunes, even though it had been months, because I had done the charts and played on the rhythm tracks. So I get there, and I'm building up to this damn Kid Charlemagne solo thing that happened. So I played the solo on Kid Charlemagne, and it just kind of went crazy as far as people recognizing this solo. And obviously you can't plan something like that. So anyway, all that to say that about 8 years ago, I got a call from Steely Dan wanting to know if I would guest on eight shows with them. And of course, I thought, how cool will that be? So I said, of course, we're going to do 5 nights at the Beacon Theater and then 3 other cities. Yeah, I'll tell that one in a minute. But anyway, so I said, of course, send me the charts, send me the dates, and I hung up the phone and it hit me just like that. I haven't played Steely Dan music in 35 years. Oh, shit. So, from that moment, then I had to decide, what am I going to do about Kid Charlemagne? It's a very, very famous solo. Am I going to play Kid Charlemagne live with Steely Dan the way I play now? Or do I go back and play the original solo, which most people are familiar with? Well, of course, family and friends said, play the original solo, stupid. So I went back and learned my own solo. It was tough. I used to play good back in those days. 35 years gone by, anyway, how the hell did I figure that? Anyway, last part of this little story. I learned my solo for Kid Charlemagne, note to note. We opened the show at the Beacon Theater with Kid Charlemagne, and I nailed it. That's 5 nights in a row I nailed that solo. Feeling a little bit like a hero, you know what I mean? Anyway, so we finally get to Los Angeles and do our show. I didn't nail the solo. Nope, one of those nights where I just didn't. Next morning, LA Times, calendar section, Carlton Flub's famous solo. I tell you what, that really upset me for about a minute and a half. It did. Anyway, so tonight we're going to play Kid Charlemagne as an instrumental, I'm going to play the solo note for note like the record. But if you hear anything in there that you say, I'm not sure that was like the record, I meant to do that.